with Coach Mangini. Time now for Say What? Titans head coach Mike Vrabel got blindsided by a ref during last week's divisional round win. I guess you could say Vrabel was slightly humiliated. Say what?
See, the funny thing...
Well, you know, that's why we get up in the morning. Stretch and I get up so early in the morning to go and get in the weight room so that when you get illegally blocked in the back like I did, it doesn't hurt. I didn't go to the ground. He didn't knock me down. Eugene can run, and he's big, and he's fast, and I was just embarrassed.
You were saying, Coach?
Sorry, I jumped in there. So Mike was always the player that could actually give Belichick a hard time back, and he's smart and sarcastic, and he would go after Bill a little bit in the meeting, and if anything like this ever happened to a guy on the team, he'd be the first one, not only give him a hard time, but give him a hard time for weeks and months and years afterwards. So hopefully there's someone that gives him a hard time.
You ever get dinged on the sideline?
No, I got hit one time at the end, right before we went on vacation for the summer, and I thought I was going to have to, like, get surgery.
The thing the players are always trying to avoid.
It was the worst. It was the worst, but thankfully it was just a sprain.
At least
Vrabel
must be huge.
Yeah, something like that, but at least Vrabel didn't fall down.
Yeah, he says he didn't fall down.
I think as long as I don't fall down, I stay face.
Yeah, but you're still getting clowned for that no matter what.
Oh, no question about it, Coach, but I mean, still some semblance of an athlete.
That's
a little bit of contact balance.
And I'm told that ref played in the NFL briefly for the Raiders, so that's a big guy.
Okay.
Listen,
Does it make it more okay,
Yeah.
understandable?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I mean, you can't have... I'm trying to think of... Gene Steratore, he's not even in the ref anymore, but you know, that guy's knocking you down.
Yeah.
This guy's a former pro.
And in fairness, everybody has a shot to knock you down if you're not looking. I mean, you have no chance to brace.
Okay,
Well,
fair enough. That's fair.
Breaking down the technical aspect of blindsided knockdown. Sticking with Vrabel and the Titans, Coach, they face a tall task in the AFC Championship against Pat Mahomes in that dominant Chiefs offense, but Derrick Henry has been absolutely unstoppable, and the Titans have won the last 4 games against KC. Coach, do the Titans have any shot of pulling off this upset?
Yes, they absolutely have a shot at pulling off the upset. And if we just went to the discussions last week, everybody said, would they have a shot at pulling off an upset? And most people would say no.
Yeah.
And so as certain as some people are that this game is just locked in, definitely a win, it happens. And I think a lot of things are going to have to go right for those guys. But when we were in the Super Bowl against the Rams, we were 14-point underdogs.
14-point underdogs.
It was the second biggest line in Super Bowl history at that point, next to the Joe Namath Super Bowl.
Jets.
And we had no chance. And the week before, we played the Steelers, and the thought process was we had no chance. But that's not how it works. And the headline, I think, in New England the next morning, or after the Super Bowl, was that's why you play the game, and that's why you play the game. And you look at the last game, a lot of things went right for him.
Yeah.
Whether it was Derrick Henry's 68-yard touchdown, whether it was the fumble return for a touchdown, whether it was the 2 block field, a lot of things went right for him, and that's going to have to happen again because they are at a disadvantage. But why can't it happen? It's been happening all season.
So I want to lean on your 2001 Super Bowl experience for a moment, because you guys are playing a Rams team built very similarly to this Chiefs team. Now,
huge talent differential.
Enormous talent differential, a track team playing on a football field. Now, the Rams didn't have a superstar tight end, but the Chiefs don't have Marshall Faulk. So, you know what I mean? I understand Kelsey and Faulk are very different players, but it was speed on the...
called the greatest show on turf.
Greatest show on turf, right? Enormous speed on the outside, great receivers, and then a guy either coming out of the backfield or in Kelsey's position, kind of tight end position is kind of the X factor. You guys held them into the teens, right? It was a 17-14 game.
I can't
remember. But I can't
remember what it was.
I think that's what it was.
I don't know. Was that what it was?
But so how? So how and what can Vrabel pull from his experience there with this game here? Because you've told me off the air before this game was even coming up, when we've talked about Vrabel, because I like talking about the good young coaches that are next in the pipeline, and you've talked about how smart Vrabel is, you know what I mean, what a unique player he was to coach. So how did you guys do it, and what can Vrabel pull from that experience?
Yeah, look, Mike is an incredibly smart guy. He's one of those guys that when I was the defensive coordinator, I could reference games that we had 4 and 5 years earlier, and he could not only remember the game, but he could remember the situation. His recall was typically even better than my own, and in the sense of I was the one bringing up the topic, but he has that ability to catalog things. And one of the things that happened in our Super Bowl years, we played in that first game, and we had one defensive approach, and it was a lot of zone. And we came back the second game, it was a radically different approach. We played a lot of cover 2, and we got up and we beat up their wide receivers. We were physical. To me, that's what you need to do with Kansas City. I could see they played some cover 2 last time they played, but this is a team that you need to go beat up. You need to try to beat up Kelsey and beat up Hill and not let him get off the line of scrimmage and get going. And if you can do that and be overly physical with him at the line of scrimmage and not let him get started, you got a real chance.
Coach, I think that's where it starts with Tennessee being able to slow down this attack. I mean, you saw when they played zone coverage in their regular season matchup, they were off, and they allowed free releases for those Chiefs receivers, and those guys got into the second and third levels of that defense in a hurry, and it was pitch and catch for Pat Mahomes. This quarterback is entirely too good. These guys are entirely too skilled to allow them free releases off of the line of scrimmage. You have to do something to disrupt the timing because you know how fast those guys play. So to me, it's not a matter of can you match up with your speed. If you're Mike Vrabel, you know the answer to that. It's no, you can't. So what you have to do is use physicality in order to slow them down and make it a game that you can win. And that starts with being able to reroute those receivers. Doesn't matter whether you're in zone or man. I'll leave that for Dean Pease to figure out. He's one of the best defensive coordinators in the game. But you have to start by not allowing those guys to get off of the line of scrimmage, because if they do, then it's going to be a pitch and catch.
And I imagine they'll double team Tyreek high-low, so he can't have those vertical shots. So you try to take that away. And look, Kansas City does a nice job on over routes where they just run them directly across the field, which hurts those double teams. And then with Kelsey, you're going to see linebackers. You're going to see a lot of defensive linemen at times get up, hitting him, not trying to let him get started. You got to keep Mahomes in the pocket. That's the third element of this.
And you've only been saying that for 2 years.
Yeah,
it's so frustrating.
It's painful to watch. But I feel the pain of the defensive coordinator because I know Romeo Crennel really well. And I know Romeo talked about keeping Mahomes in the pocket.
And they couldn't.
And they couldn't. It's easier said than done.
You guys are describing a way for the Titans to win that involves slowing the Chiefs' offense down. And one of the reasons I'm so confident is that's happened literally once in Patrick Mahomes' career. The Colts game this year, you guys remember national television, Chiefs 10-point favorites. They lose, I think, 19-10 in that game. And then they got a field goal late, maybe 19-13. But afterwards, it was like, oh, the blueprint's out. You play man-to-man on this team, you can't. That is the only game. Patrick Mahomes only lost 8 times as a starter where they have lost because the offense wasn't good. His other 7 losses, the team has allowed 43, 54, 29, 38, 37, 31, 35. Aside from that one Colts game, the path to beating the Chiefs in the last 2 years has been go outscore them. And so that's why I don't think it's a Derrick Henry-centric game. It's where it's going to have to be Henry's going to, if they have any shot, which I don't feel they do, Henry's going to have to be really good, but Tannehill's also going to have to be really, really good. It's not going to be the way you guys, I don't think it can be the way you guys beat the Rams, where it is we absolutely choke out their defense, in part because Vrabel's not Belichick.
Let me just ask this question, though. Who thought that they were going to beat the Ravens the way they beat the Ravens last week? Who was on air last week talking about that was how the game was going to unfold?
No, so listen, I said on the air that of all the 4 games that weekend, I thought the one where the upset was most likely was Tennessee over Baltimore. But I did not think they could dominate the game the way they did. But one of the reasons they dominated the game, Coach, is they had a +5 turnover margin. 3 turnovers, 2 turnovers on downs. That is, and it would be 3 of their 4 touchdowns came on short fields, you know, on the plus side of the 50, as you talked about. Those are things that I don't think are sustainable, but even if they are.
They aren't sustainable, but we saw with Kansas City, what did they do last game? Some of this is them getting out of their own way. Well, how did they lose the last game against Kansas City? They had 2 field goals blocked.
How did Kansas City lose last game against Kansas City? Yep.
Yeah, they had 2 field goals blocked, and then they were on one of the blocked field goals. The punter tried to throw the ball, and then got an intentional ground. You couldn't try to lose a game more than they did the last time. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm saying they've shown the ability to make those mistakes that could keep this other team.
But the other element is that Tennessee has something that the Eagles had 2 years ago. They have this off-the-field emotional momentum, this nobody's believing in us, this we can do it, this why not us, that they can kind of ride. If you're a head coach who's taking your team this far, how much do you lean into that the way Doug Peterson did with the Eagles that year?
Well, you hear them. You hear the guys in the locker room. You hear things they're saying. They are talking about that, but there's also the element that you hear from Mike Vrabel of, yeah, we do belong. We should be in this game. And as much as people don't believe in us, we have the ability to win this game. And then there's that component of it too. You like the underdog aspect of it, but you also want your guys to not be intimidated and know that they're going to go in there and they're going to take what Kansas City, I'm sure, has already chalked in as a victory. They're going to go in and they're going to take it, and that's I'm sure the approach that they're talking.
The Eagles also rode home field advantage, and they had offensive explosions in the conference championship game in the Super Bowl. That's kind of my point. If the Titans are going to follow the Eagles' path, not only they got to do it on the road, they're going to have to get in the 30s the way the Eagles did in that conference championship.
There's a lot of 2007 Giants in this 2019 Titans team. I'm going to just leave it at that.
Okay.
All right, Coach, stick around. Coming up, who's under more pressure Sunday, Jimmy G or Aaron Rodgers? That's next on First Things First.
The 2007
Nick
Giants.
Wright.